We will now see the general properties of solids, liquids and gases. The general properties of the three states of matter, it depends upon how the particles, that is atoms and molecules, are arranged inside them. So let us see that one by one. We have already seen that all solids, liquids and gases, it has mass and it occupies space. Now the atoms or the molecules in case of solids are closely packed. That is, the intermolecular space is minimum and the intermolecular force of attraction is maximum. And therefore, it has got a definite shape and a definite volume. But in the case of liquids, you see, liquids does not have a definite shape. It takes the shape of the container in which it is poured. But it has a definite volume because the atoms or molecules that are slightly far apart can move within the liquid itself. It does not leave the container. Therefore, it has got a definite volume. In case of gases, the particles are far apart and therefore it does not have a definite volume nor a definite shape. Let us see the next property, that is compressibility. Now, if we can reduce the size of a substance by applying a pressure, then you say that the substance is compressible. In case of solids, you see, all the atoms are closely packed and therefore you cannot make the atoms even more closer, and as a result, the compressibility of solids are nil, or it does not have compressibility. As you can see this pen, it is a solid object. By applying any kind of pressure, you cannot reduce the size of this, which means that there is no compressibility in case of solids. But in the case of liquids, as you know that the atoms are slightly far apart and therefore by applying pressure, you can bring the atoms or the molecules slightly closer together, and therefore it has got a slight compressibility compared to that of solids. But in case of gases, as you know, the atoms or molecules are far apart. Now, by giving a pressure to the atoms or molecules, what you can do is that bring all the atoms or molecules together, and therefore you can compress gases. So gases have got high compressibility. Now let us see density. Density is nothing but mass per unit volume, or in other words, it is the space that is occupied by an object in relation to the weight of the matter that is present in the object. Let us see what it is. Density of solids are very high. All the atoms or molecules are very closely packed. The intermolecular force of attraction is very high and the intermolecular space is very less. Therefore, in case of solids, their volume is very less compared to that of liquids, and therefore the density of solids are very high. In case of liquids, the atoms or molecules can move slightly far apart, and therefore the density of liquids is less compared to that of solids, because in this case the volume is slightly more compared to the volume of solids because the atoms or molecules are moving apart. Now in case of gases, the atoms or the molecules are able to move far apart and therefore it occupies a larger space, and therefore it has got a very high volume compared to that of solids and liquids, and therefore the density of gases is very less. As I have told you, it is mass divided by volume. Now the volume in case of solids is very less. In case of liquids, it is slightly higher, and in case of gases, it is the highest. And by this formula, you can find out the density of an object. Mass, that is mass of the object with the volume of the object. Now the next general property that we are going to see is free surfaces. Free surfaces is the surface that is exposed to air. Now in case of solids, you know that it has got a large number of free surfaces. As you see this marker, it has got a large number of free surfaces at all these sides. Why? Because the particles of solids are closely packed, and therefore it has got a definite shape and also a definite volume. But in the case of liquids, the particles are slightly far apart and therefore it flows easily. Or in other words, we can say that it takes the shape of the container in which it is placed, and therefore it does not have a definite shape. It has got only one upper free surface. As you can see, when you pour a liquid into a container, there is only one upper free surface that is on top, that is exposed to air. Now in case of gases, it has got no free surfaces available. Why? Because the particles of gases are far apart from each other and therefore they do not have any definite shape nor a definite volume, and therefore they do not have any free surfaces. The next property is diffusion. When you place an object in a container, if the atoms or the molecules are able to widely spread across the container, then that property is called as diffusion. Let us see in case of solids. The particles of solids are closely packed, therefore there is no chance of the atoms or the molecules spreading widely in the container, and therefore solids have got no diffusibility. But in case of liquids, the particles are slightly far apart, so there are possibilities that the particles can spread widely. That is, to an extent that is larger than that of solids. And therefore liquids have got slight diffusibility. But in case of gases, all the particles are far apart from each other. Therefore, it occupies the entire space. So when you take gas in a container, what happens? It spreads widely or it disperses widely, and therefore it has got a very high diffusibility.